What's going on, Wolves and Warriors? My name's Jase Stewart, and this is the Better Body Academy podcast, the #1 show for those looking to permanently overhaul their mind and body without dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. We banish the fitness industry BS and replace it with science-backed strategies proven through countless client transformations. In the Better Body Academy, we help busy men and women around the world get unstuck and back into momentum so they start feeling strong and sexy again. Our mission is to transform 1 million lives, and you, my friend, could be next. And on that note, let's get straight into today's show. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. I'm your host, Jase Stewart, and this is the podcast that you come to if you're sick of the dumb diets, the unsustainable workout programs. And what we're going to be talking about in this episode here is the time in my life when I literally left the grid for 10 days. So I'm going to get to what the podcast episode's all about, but I'm coming to you with a slightly horrible background. There's not much going on here, but we're up in Whistler here, extending a bit of a weekend out. And I was kind of thinking, like, what can I do for the team this morning to kind of get them to get a little bit uncomfortable, okay? And so what I'm going to be talking about in this episode is my introduction to proper meditation, okay? So we're going to be talking about something called Vipassana Meditation, and I've promised to kind of do an episode on this, and I don't think I've actually spoke publicly about this 10 days that I went off the grid back in January 2020. And so I want to do this in this episode because I think it's going to be a good way to potentially curb your interest in meditation, but more importantly, get you to consider when's the last time that you've actually done something uncomfortable, okay? Now, when we talk about a Vipassana meditation, what it's typically referred to as is a silent meditation retreat. Now, what do you think of when you think of the word retreat? I don't know about you, but I've kind of got this idea of like nice pools and really luxurious food and I don't know, like sexy chicks walking around in bikinis. And whilst I knew that that was obviously not the case with a meditation retreat, I probably expected something a little bit different to what we were greeted with when we went into Joshua Tree National Park in California and actually commenced this meditation. I want to talk to you a bit about how this looked. Vegetarian food, no meat options for the entire 10 days. Last meal at midday. And so to a guy that's probably eating, 2,500 calories a day or something like that, literally vegetarian food, and you can't eat after midday. And then most importantly and most strikingly, here's the big thing about going to a Vipassana retreat. There are no books, there are no phones, there are no computers, there's no diarying. Is that a word? There's nothing. There's no TV, there's no computers, there's no pens and pencils and notepads. There is nothing. The intention of a 10-day silent meditation retreat is for you to be silent and to meditate. So I might also add that there is no eye contact. There is no talking to each other. So the course that we went to, the retreat that we went to, had about 50 students, and no one was able to talk to each other, okay? No talking to each other, no making eye contact, and you're in this place for 10 days. And so you can imagine how difficult this actually is. And when you think of meditation, for those of you that are avid meditators, fantastic. It's a difficult habit to establish with all of its benefits. But I think we tend to think of something like, sitting in our living rooms or sitting on a lounge chair and just kind of almost like zenning out. This meditation retreat was grueling physically as well as it was mentally. So I've cut for myself a overview of what the schedule looked like, and I want to give you the idea of the schedule. 4 a.m. wake up call. 4:30 to 6:30 meditate in your room. 6:30 breakfast. 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock meditation in the hall. 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock meditation in the hall or your room. 11 o'clock lunch break. 12 o'clock meditation in the hall or the room. 2:30 group meditation in the hall. 3:30 take a break or meditate in your room. 5 o'clock tea break, which quite literally meant a cup of tea. 6 o'clock, group meditation in the hall. 7 o'clock, group meditation in your room. 8 o'clock, discourse, which is almost like a lecture from a meditating teacher. And then 9 o'clock, retire to your room. So to those of you that are listening to that, like that is somewhere around 12 to 14 hours of meditation per day. And when you're doing it in a formal practice, you're quite literally like sitting on a pillow, crossing your legs. It feels like all at once, your hips, your kneecaps, your lower back are going to break. There were people there that dropped out of the meditation course after 2 or 3 days because it's just so grueling. So let's get to the content of this podcast. Why would I actually want to do this thing? Well, look, there's 2 main reasons. Number 1, I wanted to test myself. And what I mean by this is I'd never ever been disconnected from life. I want you to think about your life right now. So you're watching me live and you're obviously seeing it through a phone or a computer, and then you'll get off this and then you'll probably call your missus or your partner and something will happen there, and then you'll go and do something else that involves technology, and then you'll go and watch some TV and that'll involve technology, and then you might go to your kids' sporting games, and then while you're doing that, you're sending a text message. So you are constantly connected. I was working in the corporate world and I had never, ever, ever been connected. So the one reason I wanted to do it was I wanted to just see how I handled myself when I was disconnected with everything and just left to my own devices. So I want to ask you the question, how would you feel if you were left to your own devices for 10 days, not given any form of kind of, entertainment? How would you do? This is a tough challenge to do. The second reason that I wanted to do a meditation was to feed what I call my spiritual growth. I think I've done a lot of things on a physical plane and a mental plane, but never done anything which was kind of challenging me spiritually. I have a strong opinion, and this might get controversial, and I'm sorry if this kind of, gets you heated, but I believe that the 2 most powerful forces in life are greed and religion. And so what I mean by this is greed and religion are really the things that they grip the world. I want you to think of all of the kind of power and might that exists, the inequality that exists in the world. At the stem of this is religion and greed. And so in my kind of common sense logic, the only thing that can possibly transcend these 2 superpowers of greed and religion is awareness. And what do I mean by awareness? Having a better understanding and empathy for who you are as a person and for your fellow man or woman. And then if we were able to, as individuals, get better at looking at our own welfare and the way we treat each other and the way that we actually think, then potentially this might give us a look into how we can overcome things like worldwide poverty and warfare. I mean, think of stuff like the Gaza Strip. Every time you turn on the news, it's the same thing every night. He bombed her, she bombed him. You turn on the news, it's rape, murder. It's just like, man, what has the world come to? So in my eyes, I wanted to do something that was tough, that disconnected me. And number 2, I wanted to kind of feed this spiritual growth. And I think it was kind of something that I realized that it's important to do is to get uncomfortable with yourself. And 2 things motivated me to get across the line to actually do this silent meditation. The first was my partner, who's in the background here and is working to try to keep our baby silent while I record this podcast. But she'd already done a meditation before. And I almost felt like I didn't want her to do it and me not be able to do it because in a way I didn't want to be less tough than her. I didn't want her to be able to have done something that I couldn't do. And there's actually another thing that I have on my bucket list, which she has done 3 times and I have never done. And that's run a marathon. She's run a marathon 3 times. So I kind of look at this and go, well, if she can do it, I can do it. That's one of the themes that we try to talk about inside the Better Body Academy. If you feel like you're stuck and you know someone else has done it, well, you can do it as well, right? That's only your own self-limiting beliefs that say you can't. So she'd already done it. And she was at the point of which we did this meditation together, 9 weeks pregnant with our first little baby. And so this is why we call her our Vipassana baby, is because we went to that meditation retreat when she was nine weeks pregnant at her first pregnancy. You can imagine this was quite nerve-wracking that we hadn't had any tests. All we knew that she was pregnant. And so we went in and we were completely separated from each other, not to say a word to each other, no eye contact. And I knew she was pregnant with our child. So the fact that she had the willingness to do this once, battle through it again, get really uncomfortable, and then do it again, gave me the power. The other thing that gave me the inspiration and power to do this was I had a chance conversation via Instagram with a bloke by the name of Colin O'Brady. Colin O'Brady is the world first man to traverse the continent of Antarctica on foot with nothing but a dog, with no dogs, I meant to say, nothing but a sled and what he could carry. And I got in a conversation with him in the DMs via Instagram, and he told me that he went and did a Vipassana retreat once a year to ground him and to keep him mentally tough. And so between him doing it and my partner doing it, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go and do it. And if it's the most horrible experience of my life, it'll be over in 10 days, and it's 10 days out of a 100-year life that I'm going to live, I'll survive. And so it was as grueling as it sounds. The torment that you get when you get in your own head is phenomenal. Now, I also want to kind of go a little bit deeper on this because I know what a lot of you guys are probably thinking. Did you masturbate heaps? One of the vows that you actually take is that you will not engage in any sexual activity at all. Now, obviously, there's no porn, of course, because you haven't got your phone, computer, or anything. So all you've got is your imagination that you can conjure. But for the record, I did not masturbate at all during this time. And so you can imagine your kind of testosterone levels building up. You're in your own head. You're spending so much time by yourself. How are you dealing with yourself? For the first day to 2 to 3, it was fucking hard. Very, very hard, both physically and mentally. But then you enter this zone of where you realize how powerful you actually are. Now, you have an instructor, and the instructor is on the daily basis guiding your meditation and is able to help you, particularly for someone like me who was not an expert meditator, was able to teach you how to slowly overcome your physical and mental limitations. And it becomes a progression where first day you're just trying to quieten the noise. You're trying to focus on your breathing. And then second day you're trying to focus on the breathing and where it hits your lips. And by the end, the most phenomenal connection is happening in your mind. Here's what's happening, guys. You are running this, how do I describe it? Almost controlling the electricity running through your body. And we are so occupied by connection right now that we don't feel it. But when you actually stop, you can control the level to which electricity runs through your body. and you can palpably feel it. And by day 9 and 10, I was able to create a sensation in the top of my head, in the very top of my head, and allow that sensation to slowly, like a line of electricity, slowly moving through each cell of your body, and be able to sit there for 2 hours on end and control the speed to which this electricity passes through your body. It's the most phenomenal feeling ever when you transcend the point or overcome the point of the pain in your hips, the pain in your back, the pain in your knees on day 4 and 5, and you feel like they're about to break. And then you get into this flow state where you're able to reconcile the sounds of the birds and the shit that's going on around you, the tractors in the background. There was construction going on at the meditation site. And instead, just let this feeling of life pass through you. And it's crazy to feel this wave of aliveness and electricity actually going through your body. You get so in touch with yourself because you don't have these distractions of the modern life. And you have no other outcome than to go inwards and process this and deal with this. So a couple of takeaways to those of you that perhaps are watching this live or listening later on is, number one, you have a much higher tolerance of pain than you think that you are capable of. When you start to understand that pain is actually just a sensation, it's just an emotion. It's an emotion that we feel with our body, but it's an emotion that we create with our minds. You're able to actually overcome a whole lot more than you think that you are capable of overcoming. These hips, these knees, this pain that you think that you're in and that you complain about every day, in a way, you are propagating that with a story. Number two, if you're able to stop and concentrate for just 5 minutes a day on trying to feel how alive you actually are, you'll be able to feel it. You'll be able to feel it in a sensation in your fingertips, a sensation in your toes. And this feeling helps you to get more in touch with yourself. And the third thing is that you can do very, very hard, mentally hard things if you're able to pluck up the courage to confront your fear. The amount of times in the lead up to being involved in the meditation retreat that I considered just making an excuse and quitting was innumerable, constantly. Do we really need to do this? Like, no one's going to know if we don't do it, and what's going to happen? It's not about proving to anyone else. It's about testing yourself up against yourself. And so many of us in life, we reference things that are arbitrary to us to give us some sense of how we are competing, how much money we've got, how successful we are in business, and we're comparing to arbitrary reference points like our friends and family that don't actually matter a shit in our life. What actually matters is when you go up against yourself, how strong are you? When you're left to your own devices, how strong are you? And wrapping up this episode, I want to say to any of you that are thinking, I'm just too comfortable at the moment. I'm tolerating a level of everydayness here. I would highly suggest you Google search Vipassana Meditation, and it's completely free. You have the option of doing a donation at the end if you want. It will be one of those things that is a complete polarity, where every day that you are doing it for the first 5 days, you're thinking to yourself like, who the fuck does this? Why would I sign up for this? But every day after the 5 days, when you're in a flow state and you realize that you're the type of guy or girl that does tough things just because, you'll realize in that moment that nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. You are the person that determines your own dreams, or what we refer to as is self-determinate, not being determined by things that are external to you. Yep, I still have this idealistic vision that the world can become increasingly more self-aware. As more and more people become more self-aware, we have the ability to impact our friends. We have the ability to impact our family. This is my vision for the Better Body Academy. As more and more men and women become more and more self-aware and come into contact with other more men and women that are becoming more and more self-aware, it's almost like a plague that spreads like COVID, only this plague is a plague that will eventually overcome and transcend greed and religion. And those two institutions will crumble like the Twin Towers. But until then, we work independently on ourselves and we grow and we try to get in better alignment with our life and our goals and what we actually want. Big thoughts for a weekend, right? So sorry if I've kind of sat you on your ass here and floored, but I wanted to come in and talk about something on a weekend which was just a little bit different, because the connection and the kind of inner strength that this has given me to my own self, my own self-image, my own sense of self, and my own ability to control my own life, determine myself, I think is really took a quantum leap after I'd done this retreat. And I encourage you to do something today or this week that puts you into that same uncomfortable feeling, that same feeling of like, I'm not good here. This is like awkward. When you can get uncomfortable with that awkwardness, that means that you're growing. I'm going to love you and leave you guys. That's been the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to with the sick of the dumb diets, unsustainable workout programs, and you want to be called out on your own bullshit. I'm Jase, and I'll see you in the next episode. Wolves and Warriors, thank you so much for tuning in. If this podcast is hitting the mark for you and giving you the confidence to start your own personal journey, I want you to hit me up on Facebook or head over to my Instagram at jstewart_BetterBodyAcademy and DM me with the words Better Body Academy. I want to give you the tools to permanently overhaul your mind and body without dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Our mission is to achieve 1 million lives transformed, and you, my friend, could be next. So hit me up on Facebook or head over to my Instagram at jstewart_BetterBodyAcademy and DM me with the words Better Body Academy, and we can have a chat about whether we can help you with your transformation goals.